All right, good morning, everybody. Welcome to the weekly conference call. Matt Ham here, co-founder of Uprint Faith and Personal Development, working with Red Earth Marketing exclusively. Every Tuesday we do these calls. We've got the same crew that joins us on the live call, but I always make an introduction because the team will increase and grow, and these videos are archived here on the YouTube channel for folks who want to go back and watch them. Certainly appreciate you guys being engaged and involved. The heart and the mission here is to just keep you guys focused and encouraged, knowing that there are a variety of different challenges that we deal with every day, not only as human beings, but especially as those who are in sales. And so wanting to bring just some perspective to you guys by jumping on these calls, and certainly always available to chat one-to-one if anybody needs to do that. You've got my email, but just in case you don't, matt@uprint.life. As we were jumping on today, kind of catching up with everybody, a couple folks made mention of the season shift that we are in. Today is officially the first day of fall, kind of in the Gregorian calendar, if you will. September 22nd marks, I think, the first day of fall, 21st, 22nd. So we're in that shift from summer to fall. And it's really interesting because what a wild and crazy year we've had here in 2020 with everything going on from COVID to lockdowns to all the social, racial unrest, political unrest. There's fires out west. I mean, it's like every day you turn on the news this year, there's something else that's going on. And yet here we are. We're still here. It's September of 2020, which is wild because it feels like it was just February. But we're in this shift of a season. Now, you guys know me well enough to know that faith plays a huge part and role in my life. It is the essence of my life, what I try to live my life by every day, every moment. And I have been feeling lately that the Lord has been reminding me and speaking about this shift in seasons. And so I want to create some context for that and then give some practical ideas about how we can navigate this shift. God in the Bible, if you look at God, his people, if you will, are Hebrews, the Israelites. Okay, goes back to the Old Testament. God promised to make a nation for Abraham. Then you have the Hebrew people, the Israelite people that were God's people that He fought for, protected, rebuked, all of the above, until you see Jesus come on the scene. Jesus being the Son who was to redeem those people, but He also spread the good news of the love of God to everyone, to what they call Gentiles, which is basically non-Jewish people. So you've got God having a group of people and then bringing everybody into that family. So that's kind of a quick narrative there. But the Hebrew people, the Jews, if you will, they practice their own kind of religious practices. And one of those practices is the celebration of what's called Rosh Hashanah. And Rosh Hashanah in the Jewish tradition is the transition of the civil new year. Interestingly enough, that just happened this past weekend. Now, I'm not a practicing Jew by any means, but I believe it's interesting to note that there is a great group of individuals who look at this transition from summer to fall every year as their own new year. This is the Hebrew people. They celebrate Rosh Hashanah. And there's a lot of really different dynamics that go along with it. I'm not going to get into that. I simply say that to say the Lord has been speaking about that transition. Now, we normally use January 1st, December 31st to January 1st is our new year, and that is a transition for us. But interestingly enough, this is also a transition, a new year for a certain group of people throughout the world. And interestingly enough, it coincides with our summer to fall solstice on September 21st. Secondarily, the Lord has been speaking to me through this season about the transition of leadership. In the Old Testament, the first king of Israel was a man named Saul. Saul was chosen by the people because he looked like a king. He had good stature, he was tall, handsome, he spoke well, he was the king. This is the man we want to be king. And so they chose this man king based off of how he looked. And he was a terrible king. He didn't follow the Lord. He didn't lead the people well. He gave in to the opinions of people, the fear of other people. He let people's opinions sway him. And by the end of Saul's life, he is sitting in a room with a gypsy woman, a magician woman, a sorceress, if you will, trying to get her to kind of like speak into his life. And he ends up committing suicide. And then the throne transitions from Saul to a man named King David. And there's a whole leadership dynamic in this, Saul to David, how they led differently. David led from his heart. He led from his anointing because God said you will be king. Even when he was 15 years old and he wasn't king, he stepped into battle with Goliath and had a great victory. But then Saul wanted to kill him, so David ended up running into the wilderness for like 15 years of his life, waiting on God to deliver on the promise. God finally did, and David steps into kingship. Okay, I'm not trying to go off on a biblical narrative with you guys, but I want to tell you all of this to make this point. I believe with everything in me, we are in a season shift from summer to fall, from Hebrew year 5780 to 5781 that's going on now, but also a leadership shift of Saul leadership. This is self-serving leadership versus David leadership, which is heart kingly leadership. Why do I tell you guys all that? Right? I tell you all that because I believe this is something that you should pay attention to. Okay? I believe we should pay attention to the shifting season around us. What's interesting as well is John has shared with me, a lot of you are starting to see an increase in activity. Right? It's interesting to me, y'all, I'm sorry, I don't want to preach. I'm going to get fired up here. It's interesting to me that this season shift of an increase in activity is coinciding with all of the stuff that's going on right now. And so I really hope that you guys see this with me, that we are in a shifting season right now. And that shifting season is going to require some things of us in order to be able to step into it. And so that's the context for the call today, the shifting of seasons and being prepared to step into the season that is ahead and stepping out of the season that is behind. No longer can you make excuses for what happened back March and through August. No longer can we, be held captive to all of the dynamics with, COVID and stuff. And I mean, I say that with utmost respect. I mean, I know we actually have people who are affected by this, so I'm not ignoring the reality. I'm saying from a heart perspective, we don't need to live in that place anymore. We need to be ready to move into the place that is ahead. Okay, and so this isn't about the illness itself. It's just about our hearts, how we direct our hearts toward it, and how we step into what is ahead and step away from what is behind us. Back in 2013, I was having my best year ever at North Carolina Farm Bureau, the insurance company that I worked for. I had just finished 7th in the company out of 800 agents across the state of North Carolina. So I was riding high. I had an assistant that helped me. We were rocking and rolling. I was on pace to have my best year ever. And in the middle of that year, the Lord called me in a very profound way to begin writing. And I thought it was the craziest thing that I had ever heard, because I went to North Carolina State University, which is an agricultural school largely, and I majored in interpersonal communications, which means I basically talked my way through college. I never liked language arts growing up. I never was a writer. I never was a voracious reader, and yet I felt the Lord calling me to write. So in the summer of 2013, while having 3 kids under the age of 3 or 4 at the time, and while running a insurance agency that had about 1,000 families insured at any given time, I launched a blog at mattham.com. And I was following this passion in my heart to speak and to write, and ended up the end of that year writing a book. And you guys have seen my book, Redefine Rich, and all that. And so that was a big, major moment in my life of stepping into a new season. Interestingly enough, it happened around this time of the year. And through that process, you guys know my story. I was diagnosed with an aggressive form of melanoma, spreading melanoma cancer that really got my attention, kind of grabbed my heart. And by 2015, I knew that the Lord was doing something more in my life than just a guy writing a book and being like a traveling speaker. And so that's when I began to open myself up to what the Lord had ahead, the new season that was ahead. And He ended up bringing me a business partner, Kevin Adams. We co-founded YouPrint, our faith and personal development organization, in 2016. We began our radio broadcast. We began our one-to-one mentoring and teaching. And it was a very slow kind of beginning. And in 2018, we launched our nonprofit entity, the Life Center, which is the charitable work that we do to help people uncover their gifting, remove the obstacles that are standing in the way of that gifting, and then giving them the environment to go out and live it out in the world. And in 2018, I felt the call to walk away from my insurance career. 10 years in the insurance business, multiple six-figure income, to go and jump into these startup nonprofit and startup businesses that I have done. So why do I tell you guys like that? Because through that process, I never let go of my personal website, mattham.com. I always kept it. And I always kept it because I felt obligated to the people that I had walked with early on in that process, the people who had bought my book, the people who had hired me to speak. It's like, well, I know I'm moving in this direction to this YouPrint work and the Life Center work, but I kind of needed to maintain this identity of Matt Ham, and I kind of need to keep like my own email lists and all that. And basically, I just kind of let it be. I was focused on the work of the Life Center and the nonprofit and YouPrint, but I still held on to this old website and old email list. And for years, I just justified it because I was like, well, it's no big deal. The accounts are on auto draft. I don't really write on the site anymore. It's just kind of there. So about a month ago, I was praying, meditating, and I really felt the Lord said, why have you not canceled your old website and canceled your old email list? And I was like, well, I haven't written on it in like 2 years, Lord. Like, it's no big deal. You know I'm doing this work over here. And He goes, why don't you have the courage to shut it down? And I was like, okay, you're punching me where I don't want to be punched right now. And I really felt like the Lord was calling me in this season to fully let go of old things so that I could step into new things. And this is the heart of where I want to really press on you guys a little bit. I believe right now that there are some things in your life and in your business that you need to say no to. One of the dynamic challenges of being in sales is trying to be everything to everybody. You end up saying yes to everything because everything is an opportunity. And you have this great, kind of gregarious, outgoing thing. Yeah, we'll do that. Yeah, I'll do that. Sure, I'll do that. Sure, I'll do that. And you say yes to everything, and you end up living by obligation to your yes because you don't have a strong enough no. And the flip side of that is someone who's paralyzed from past pain and fear that they say no to everything. And they don't end up saying yes to anything fully. So they live in kind of this like half-hearted, passive kind of like, well, it's okay. I mean, I kind of do this job and it kind of works. I make a little bit of money or whatnot. I don't really have to say yes to a bunch of stuff. I don't really have to say no to a bunch of stuff. It's just kind of cool for me to hang out right now. And I really believe that in this season shift for you guys, that there's something pressing that you need to learn to say no to, and something pressing that you need to learn to say yes to. And I don't know who this is for specifically, but I really believe that there are two camps here. One is people who are holding on to old things that it's completely incapacitating you to step into new things. So basically, you're afraid to say no to old things. Now, I don't know if it's old relationships, if it is old ways of thinking, if it's old financial patterns, if it is old ways of doing business. Maybe it's something simple like I get a picture right now of like an old box of keepsakes in the garage. And it's like when you played little league sports or you cheered in high school or whatnot, and maybe it's like your old pom-poms, or maybe it's an old, journal or diary. I don't know what it is. Like there's this old box that's in the corner of the garage that it doesn't serve you anymore, but you kind of hang on to it for like the purpose of nostalgia, and it like collects dust in the corner, and that's not who you are anymore. You're moving in another direction, but it's just easier to let the box sit in the corner and collect dust than to actually get rid of it and clear space for something else. And again, I think this has great application into your calendars. Look at your calendar each week and look at what you're saying yes to that is keeping you from saying yes to something else. There's a lot of folks who fill their time with a bunch of yeses that are not serving this new season in the direction that you're moving. It's like, well, I joined this old, business networking group or whatnot, and we meet for an hour every Wednesday on Zoom, and I just feel like I gotta jump on there and whatnot because my friend Susie is actually running it, and if I say no, she's gonna upset her. But that hour of your time is not serving you well. It's wasted when you could be spending time with a client, or you could be spending time prospecting, or you could take that hour and use it for greater good. And so I want to bring all this together in kind of a tidy little way. We are in a season shift. I believe that wholeheartedly. I believe that we are supposed to say no to old things and yes to new things. And I believe that the other dynamic is people who have been saying no to things and you're being asked to say yes to something. But you're paralyzed. You're in the season shift. And so the encouragement for you is this. The power of your no determines the power of your yes. What you are willing to say no to is going to free you up to say yes to something else. And what you're adamantly saying no to is keeping you from saying yes to something that you need to say yes to. And so this again can have a ton of different applications. It can be into your marketing strategy. It can be into how you're spending your day from a time perspective, which I think may be the greatest application from those of you that I've talked to. But it also could be just mindsets. It could be old habits of fear. It could be old habits of procrastination. It could be old habits of complacency or laziness, where you say you want to do something, and you just don't do it. Last week we talked about accountability. And I told you guys that every day from then until now, I was going to send each one of you a personal text message. And, for the ones that I do have your cell phones, I did send something out to someone every day. I don't have all of your cell phones, but the ones that I do, I sent you out a personal text. And that's something I'm happy to keep up with. If I don't have your cell, text me your cell number. My cell is 910-619-4644. But that's something that I chose to say yes to as a way just to continue to be in relationship and encourage you guys. And again, it's not some magic thing. I just sent out a short little text saying, hey, thinking of you today. Let me know if you need anything. Have an awesome day. So something I chose to say yes to. And I held myself accountable and I did it. But there's also there's so many things that we've said yes to. And so we're afraid to say no to them because we feel obligated to. That was me with my own website and my own emails and stuff. And so I sent an email out to my entire old email list. I had like 2,000 people subscribed on an old email list. And I said, guys, it's time for this season to end. Thank you all for following along, but the Lord's asking me to say no to this. So I'm going to close down this email. You can follow along over here if you want to, but this is where I'm going. And the underneath principle in all of this is we are in a season where true leaders are rising up. And true leaders are people who know where they're going and nothing is going to stop them. And they're just going. They're not trying to convince you this is where to go. They're not trying to sell you on the idea, but they just have a fierce commitment and dedication to the direction that they are going, and they're going to invite you along, and they're going to move forward. And I believe that you guys have an opportunity to lead first yourselves, and then secondly those around you, by making the decision to have a very strong no on the things that you need to let go of, and a yes to the things that the Lord is calling you to step into. And so today, look at yourself, look in the mirror, examine your habits, examine your schedule, and get really honest about the things that you need to say no to. so that you can make room for the yeses that are ahead in this new season. That wraps it up for the call today on the recorded side. Do hope you guys will touch base. Have an awesome week. Always, I'm here if you need me. Thanks, and we'll see you next week.